I'm about to make some of you very unhappy. Because today I will be ranking the Scream franchise, which is not limited to just the movies, but the 3 seasons of the MTV Scream show. And some of you will not be happy with the placement of some of the movies, I'm telling you right now. So anyways, before we kick it off, if you're new here, my name is Kylie. Hi, welcome to the channel. I finally just finished reviewing all of the Scream movies as well as all 3 seasons of the Scream TV show. So catch up on those if you haven't. When I reviewed Scream 3, I dressed up as Beth, and that was a lot of fun. Every now and then I like to switch up my vibe from this to that. So you never know what you're gonna get. Consider subscribing. It's fun. It's a surprise every time. I already made the disclaimer that some of you guys are not gonna be happy with this list, but just let me live my truth, okay? Okay, now to kick it off, I'm gonna start with number 7 and then work my way up all the way to number 1. My number 7, my least favorite of all the TV seasons and all of the movies, would be Scream Season 1. It was really hard for me to place that at last because I still loved the first season so much. I just have so much love for this entire franchise. Literally every single movie, every single season I'm obsessed with. So this list kind of feels pointless. It doesn't really feel like it matters where I put everything. But now that I'm being forced to choose, because this was a highly anticipated ranking video, I place season 1 at the bottom of the list. The reason I do so is just because I think that it is the corniest out of any season and any movie. It feels like the least intentionally ironic season of all of them. The acting is definitely the worst in the first season than of like any other season or movie. I found myself not liking almost any of the characters in the first season. Namely the lead, I really hated Emma in the first season. I thought she was really annoying and really stupid. And that's natural. It usually takes at least a season for a TV show to kind of get its bearings and figure out how to use the ammo at its disposal. So I don't blame them for the first season not being very good, because in an ironic way, in a cheesy way, I think it's lovely. I think it's delightful. I still love the first season. It just happens to be my least favorite out of everything else on this list. Working my way up to number 6 now, and that would have to go to Scream 3. I almost thought that Scream 3 was going to be higher on my list than it ended up being, but it's just, I have to call it like it is. It's still a great movie. I still love Scream 3, but it is absolutely the weakest of the franchise. I think that the commentary was pretty fantastic. I like that they were making commentary on the predatory nature of Hollywood and that industry, but overall, I think out of the movies, it had probably the least likable characters. It had my least favorite cold open, I would say, and probably my least favorite reveal. But there are still good things about it, as I mentioned. I think that Sydney goes through a really amazing arc throughout that movie. I love the cameos that they had in that movie, however unearned they might have been. I love the performance of Parker Posey. I think that people shit on her too much for like being annoying, but she was supposed to be, like, that was the character she was playing. I think she's hilarious. Another bad thing about the movie though is Gail and Dewey's romance. I hate it. I've never rooted for them, but I love Gail, and Gail had a good story, and I still like the movie, okay? But yeah, definitely has to fall at number 6. But moving on to my number 5, and some people this is where we might start having a difference of opinion. Just please bear in mind that I still absolutely love and adore every single one of these movies, okay? But in the place of number 5, I put Scream 2. Yeah, just chill out. Just chill for a sec, just settle down. Excellent movie, okay? I love that we got a guest appearance by Sarah Michelle Gellar. I thought that was super fun. I love that we move out of Woodsboro and now we're in a college setting, because I think that there are sort of a lot of inherent fears that women face when they're on a college campus, and this kind of highlighted some of those. I love sort of the dramatics of this movie. I love that Sydney is involved in the theater and we have some immaculate scenes in the theater. I love the killer reveal. I think it's one of the best of the entire franchise. Completely took me off guard. And just overall, it's a very, very strong movie, and there was some, like, a little bit of diversity. Like, there was a little bit of better representation in that one. I'm not gonna praise it because it still wasn't great, but certainly a lot better than the first movie and some of the TV show, for sure. Okay, moving on now to my top 4, and my number 4 would have to go to Scream Season 2. Now, in this season, oh my god, it was unbelievably strong. Not only did they figure out how to cater to each of these actors' individual talents and kind of exploit those, but the story got so much more interesting. The reason why it's not higher up on my list is because of the god-awful ending of that season. Again, no spoilers, but it ended on this cliffhanger that... fury. Fury is what I feel. It was an amazing story, but they simply couldn't finish it. They could not wrap up that story to save their life. Even if they wanted to continue on with those characters in the third season, I still would have loved to have had a nice little bow wrapped on season 2. But no, oh my god, they left it so open-ended. It was awful. So that's the reason why season 2 is not higher up on my list, because I fell in love with the characters of this season. I love them so much. The acting also got so much better, and they brought in these new characters that were so much more interesting and added so much more to the dynamic of the show. Namely Zoe, oh my god, my girl, and Stavo. Like my friend at Royal Horror would say, they cause bi panic. Just overall really, really strong characters in season 2, a much stronger storyline except for the freaking ending. So moving on now to my top 3, and these were really hard for me because honestly these top 3 feel just like a little bit interchangeable because I love them all. I love them all. So anyways, my number 3 would have to go to Scream Season 3. A lot of people didn't like that season, and it's kind of upsetting to me because I feel like a lot of people didn't really give it a chance. There's a lot about it that doesn't work, and I broke down everything in my review. Like, I pointed out all the corny parts, all the bad writing, all the bad acting. There's a lot about that season that is not good, and I'll give you that, but I think that the latter half of the season, the last 3 episodes, and the 6th episode in particular, just completely blew me away. Definitely blew the other 2 seasons just completely out of the water. I think the reveal is fantastic, one of the best of the entire franchise, and it was finally a Scream story that was from a more diverse background. It was a story that rather than taking place in the affluent suburbs, it took place in a lower income neighborhood, and we got a lot more Black actors, and they totally shined. I personally found it to be a much more interesting perspective. I was so happy that we were no longer trapped in the constraints of suburbia. I was like, yes, give me a different perspective, please. I think a lot of the reason why some people don't like season 3 is because it probably took them out of their comfort zone, but some of you are not ready to have that conversation, so we're not gonna have it today. But I just found that perspective to be leagues more interesting than a lot of the other stories we just saw that were in the affluent suburbs, and like, that just doesn't interest me anymore. Like, I was excited to finally see something different. And I think that's why it's so upsetting to me that the show was canceled after that season, and I don't know if it's because the 3rd season was so poorly received, but I would love to get more of that show. I would love for it to continue this anthology style that it did with the 3rd season. I would love to see this kind of a story, this kind of a whodunit slasher series take place in multiple very different kinds of neighborhoods, because I think that the story would change so greatly from different types of neighborhoods, you know? I think there's so much more to explore with that, and that's why I don't necessarily want any more Scream movies. Like, I'm excited for Scream 5, obviously, but I wasn't asking for it, were you? So anyways, I'm gonna move on now to my number 2, and my number 2 would have to go to Scream 4. So this movie is just like so comforting to me. It's not the most well made. For some reason, a lot of the outdoor scenes are like mad overexposed, like they do not look good. But again, I love the arcs that the women of the story went on. They managed to make it feel like a very natural progression of the story from Scream 3. So the development of Sydney and her no longer viewing herself as a victim, I really liked that. I like the fact that they went a more realistic route with Gail, and now she was, instead of being more successful, she was kind of in a rut with her career, and it was kind of because her husband was holding her back. And then Dewey, I don't care about Dewey because he's literally never really had to go on any type of arc, and I think that's because the writers of these movies know that Dewey is not very interesting or dynamic. And you know what? I think that Scream 2 would have been higher up on my list if Dewey had died in that movie like he should have. But anyways, with Scream 4, I think it's truly one of the best reveals of the franchise. I know I've said that multiple times already. There are so many good reveals in this franchise. I just love this one in particular because I really didn't see it coming. I had actually been rooting for the person that ended up being the killer, and so it was just it was a great twist. It also felt very realistic. It felt like it was making good commentary, and it was a story that I feel like in this day and age could really happen. I love the cold opens of that movie. I know it's really ridiculous, and a lot about Scream 4 is very corny in what feels like kind of an unintentional way, and it might not be the best writing of the franchise. I just think that Scream 4 is so much fun. It's definitely one of my favorite movies of the franchise to watch, if not my favorite. But that being said, you obviously already know what my favorite is, and it is the original Scream at number 1. This just kind of feels like a no-brainer because it is the most well-written movie of the franchise. I think it has the best reveal. It's something that I didn't see coming. I love the commentary that it makes, especially with the kids and when they're at that party and they're like making commentary on Halloween, because I feel very involved in the movie. I relate to all the characters so much. The characters are so well written, and it makes their deaths all the more painful. That cold open too, by far, obviously the best of the entire franchise. That cold open, I think, is that why they call it a cold open? Because I was literally just about to say that cold open made my blood run cold. My blood made my blood run cold. Sorry, I'm just talking too fast. But yeah, that spooked me and just totally set the mood for the rest of the movie, which I did talk about that cold open on Friday, if you haven't seen last Friday's video. But the first time I saw this movie, I think I was probably 16 years old, and it was genuinely terrifying to me. I thought it was so phenomenal. I managed not to get the opening spoiled for me for the first 16 years of my life, thank God. But this is so many people's favorite horror movie for a reason. It's just, it's frightening, but it's like also so comforting. The aesthetic of it is amazing. I love the wardrobe, the costumes of this movie are so good to me. The characters are obviously so iconic. I feel like there's so many franchises where you remember the villain's name and then maybe the name of like your favorite final girl of the franchise. With the Scream franchise, I feel like I don't know if this is just me, but I remember like every character's name. That's just how memorable they are, and particularly in the first movie. And it's not because like I've seen it a billion times. I've only seen the first Scream movie twice, and yet it's so iconic. So much about it is just so memorable to me. And I don't think that the same can be said for a lot of the other Scream movies. Like with the first season of Scream, I had forgotten like everything that had happened in that season. And with Scream 3, I couldn't remember a single character's name really from that movie except for our main trio. When something is really memorable to me, I remember the characters, and I think that's probably why Scream season 3 made it so high up on my list. It could also just be recency bias, but I remember all those characters' names. Same with the second season of Scream. This franchise just has a way to make characters that I fall in love with somehow, but especially in that first movie. And I think that characters are probably one of the most important parts of a movie, at least for me, because if I don't like the characters, then I don't care what happens to them, and it kind of just ruins all the suspense. There's no tension for me anymore. But with Scream, I loved everybody so much, and that's what made the movie more scary and more painful. And same with the TV show. I would say if I was ranking these based on the most likable characters, I think the first Scream and then Scream season 2 and 3 would be in my top 3. I want to say that the characters are really likable in Scream 4, but honestly, Kirby was my favorite and everyone else is kind of like whatever to me. So yeah, just kind of rambling on now that my ranking is done, sorry. But I get into all these topics in much more depth in all of my reviews, so definitely check those out if you haven't yet. And then next week, super exciting, one of my favorite things about doing these series is I will be reacting to all of your comments from my Scream series. So definitely go back, watch my old videos if you haven't, leave your comments so that I can respond to them next week. And I know that this was a shorter video today, so if you'd like more content from me, then definitely check out my vlog channel that's linked down below, or my Patreon if you'd like to support me there. You can also follow me on social media. I do have a horror Instagram account as well as a personal account. I have Twitter, I have Letterboxd, I have Poshmark if you want to buy some movies. Oh, speaking of, if you would like some new movies, definitely check out my giveaway that I posted on Saturday. I posted a collection update and there is a giveaway at the end. And if you'd also like to see a video of me getting ready to film for today and talking about the amazing new Lil Nas X video, then you can find that on my vlog channel as well. I also just talk about whatever like other pop cultural stuff is going on that I feel like. But anyways, that really does it from me today. I hope that you enjoyed this video and I hope I got you in the next one. Bye!